cigarettes has been arrested, and I'm ready to fucking snap.
We are live. This is Calling the Audible. I am in studio with GM Calethris. You can tweet him at GMCole44. Make sure to hashtag better than Brent. I am Pease Delaries. You can follow me at Pease FPF, and we are in the Coast to Coast
Also,
studios.
make sure to hashtag better than Brent.
You can, if you're watching live, of course, you're watching at www.theunclemikeshow.com. The Uncle Mike Show, of course, coming up at 9 o'clock tonight. And he has guests. We are
David Hurley.
David Hurley, actually.
David Hurley.
FPF fame.
FPF fame, also of Read Between the Lines now. Another sports show as well.
Which Mo Khan is going to be on eventually.
Maybe. Not if they make good decisions. I am, of course, in studio with our producer as well, the Eagle. If you want to tweet the show live, it's a great idea because it's a bye week and we don't have much of a script. So if you want to add content, it would be great because or else your podcast is going to suck.
If you're ready for us to get off the rails,
this is the one. This is the one. And you can tweet the show live at Eagle FPF and add your content. So this is the bye week. It was pretty terrible, as it turns out. At least there was the Super Bowl to watch in between. It gave us something to talk about and to follow up on. And finally, we'll stop talking about deflated footballs.
Yeah, I mean, I was super happy. It was an exciting Super Bowl to watch. As much as it hurt, as a Seahawks fan, I understand the reasoning behind it. Having under 30 seconds to go, risking an incompletion to stop the clock. We're not going to talk about the Super Bowl, though.
We can.
We can.
This reminds me. I was watching Conan O'Brien once, like about 10 years ago, and his show was delayed because a basketball game before that. His show was already pushed back for a basketball game, and the basketball game went to overtime.
What's a basketball?
What's a basketball? Exactly. And so what happened was, in the show, Conan O'Brien realized he could say and do anything. So they had a bunch of random segments, one of which was a picture of a bat in a toilet bowl. So this is the Bat in the Toilet Bowl edition of Calling the Audible.
Is that like the Conan episode where he brought a scientist in during the writer's strike because they had no material, and it was all about the physics of him spinning his wedding ring on the desk?
Yeah, that's the one.
It was like a 13-minute segment.
It was pretty awesome. That being said, we were lucky enough to have the wonderful people of FPF Land join us on Facebook and Twitter to give us some topics. We're going to address those right away because
the one that intrigued me the most out of all of them was there's the whole topic that Eagle said, let us know what questions you have. We'll be on at this time. And Tom Cesari's comment was just refereeing.
Yeah, well, we're doing that.
Does that mean that we're going to talk about refereeing, or we're going to talk about that he can't contribute to our segment or listen at this time because he's refereeing?
Both, neither, all of the above, and
yes.
So we're going to start off. Simon Dagenet this sounds horrible and great at the same time. Awesome, Simo. Congratulations. You can use a keyboard, but that's about all. Then we get one from David Delarocca, who was my co-host in the previous show. Please talk about the steroid use and its benefits.
We just did.
Absolutely. And then we have Eagles mention, which doesn't matter. And now we're to Tom Cesari.
Okay. So refereeing.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
Philosophically, I think it's useful. Mm-hmm. I think it's needed. Otherwise, we'll be screaming at each other all game long.
Yes, but this coming from the person who doesn't play defense and says, therefore, it's not relevant.
It's not relevant.
Okay, so you don't officiate, therefore.
Well, because what happens is refereeing gives me something to complain about during games,
and after,
and
before,
and during,
mostly during. I actually wanted to give a shout out to referee, and I was going to ask you her name before the show. But then I forgot to ask.
Would it be Tara Mrakchik or would it be Tracy?
It is Tara. It is Tara. At the field this week, I happened to catch a game she was refereeing, and I wanted to give her a shout out because it was one of the best examples of refereeing. There was a lot of flags thrown, but she caught every flag guard. Guy, a receiver was jumping, got it called. She did call me GM. So that night I got mistaken for GM and Rob Campana, so at least I'm looking more attractive these days.
Okay.
But whatever, I'll take it. So Tara, honestly, great game, great officiating. Many of the calls went against NWO, but even they were saying
They were warranted.
Yeah, they were saying, well, guys, we gotta stop being stupid. That is the call, you know.
Well, you made mention of there was this is off on a tangent, but there was a game where Lassos played checkmate last season, and you had mentioned Tom Cesare was on the
Steve
game,
Hodhod.
Steve Hodhod, and you said it was the most flags you had ever seen thrown in a game, and you said you wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
No, it was a horrible game, and it wasn't competitive at all. But nonetheless, like the referees called it perfectly. They spotted things that are never called. We were trying to take it. Lesos was a far better team that season. We were trying to do anything we could to gain an edge, and they kept calling us for it. It was good.
And you know what I really like is that these officials in FPF, they see a lot of the same guys week after week and still manage to retain that objectivity. They're still able.
Yeah. Sometimes. Honestly, look. For the bulk of it, I have to say, having now played in many leagues, I have to say we have the best referees, and it's not even close. We have referees that reference CFL, CIS. Referees have been in charge of rules across Canada. It's absolutely amazing. That being said, not everyone's completely objective. These are human beings, you know. And the issue I have, and it's not anyone's fault specifically. I'm okay with someone missing a hold. I'm okay with someone missing a flag guard.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Exactly. But I'm okay. I'm okay with refs not catching something technical. My problem is there are games that get out of hand physically, and this isn't a tackle league. And a lot of the referees who have a background in reffing tackle will make these calls. That being said, I was watching the Super Bowl, and there was a player being dragged down by his jersey, and to which I almost jumped up and said, "Come on, that's a hold," because in FPF, of course, that is a hold, whereas in tackle it's allowed. So I understand the difficulty of going back and forth between leagues, but to me, when it has to do with safety, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, we have mentioned of Eagle before about how last night on Field 3 at Hebert there was someone screaming at the end of the game. It's not an individual who plays in Division 3. It's one of the higher divisions. At the same time, you know, the officials were able to maintain their composure. But honestly, as a player, just these are people who are coming to work, same as you. If I came into your office, if I rustled around your files, if I yelled at you while you tried to do your job,
that would be a Wednesday.
That would be a Wednesday, but that would still be super unappreciated. And I think we're also lucky at the same time that we have referees who are so patient and so understanding with us and don't lose their shit when they really have absolute merit.
The next one's from Maxime Giroux. Thank you, Tom, for sending us your comment. Maxime Giroux asked us to talk about our top 10. Eagle, if you want to bring up our top 10, and we'll address the next one in the meantime. David Del Rocca says, talk about Eagle's mom. I think she's wonderful.
Yeah, I think so too. She came to one of our games last spring. She's very nice, she already knew who I was and was a little bit flattered and happy about that.
A little bit disturbing. I've also seen on many bathroom stalls, after I finished writing it, it said, for a good time, and so on and so forth. We'll address the top 10 now. We have Wild Boys at 3-0. I ranked them first. Agree, disagree, why not?
I don't agree right now. I think that they're still relatively untested.
Even though they beat Prestige Worldwide and BD Mans.
Prestige Worldwide, who admittedly have been struggling.
Fair.
You even make mention of the fact that their loss came in week 1, usually where a lot of teams struggle out of the gate. So I think that they're still definitely a top 10 team. I just don't think that as of week 10, we're going to see them at the top of this hierarchy right now.
I see Prestige Worldwide number 2 just because I see them starting to click, and I don't think they're performing at that level yet, but I see them taking off that way. So it's sort of me projecting for the future.
It's really odd because it's the same core for the most part. It's the same name, but it's not the same team dynamic. And I think that's what's been holding us back because we've been saying, oh, it's not the same Prestige Worldwide. They're going to struggle. They struggle it out of the gate. I think that Alex Lever is really trying to find the identity with this team, and he's starting to finally use it to his advantage. I think that this is a very good team. I don't think it merits comparing them to the last season, the last championship-winning Prestige Worldwide. I think we need to look at them as an entity of their own, and from there, they're a very, very good team.
Fair. Bearskins. Having beaten Bade, who I thought were one of the stronger teams coming in this week.
And Bades are absolutely a very, very strong team. They have a defense that clicks really well. They manage the ball well. They have a top tier quarterback in Fred Dupuis who plays He used to dominate the Terrebonne division. He's former Division 1 quarterback, Division 2 currently quarterback. I think that in order to be the best, you need to beat the best. And whether or not Bearskins are necessarily there yet, they're definitely taking those steps. I think they're perfect for 4th or 5th. You have them 3rd, which is fine. But that's amongst all the undefeated teams. I like their additions. I think Jam LaPlante is someone who's going to go under the radar because he hasn't played in the league in a few seasons. And I think they're definitely meriting this spot.
I put Pastor Prime at 4 because I don't believe the resume just yet. What do you think?
I think this is an incredible team. I think this will be probably the team that will see 1st or 2nd place in this division. I think that they're undefeated right now. Mm-hmm. I think that I don't know if you're a little bit bitter over having lost. I know it's one that you know. No.
It's a team I believed in coming into the season.
Exactly, in the sense that you felt that Moose were the better team on the field that day. But
no, they were not that day. Well, definitely not that day.
On paper.
On paper, yes.
Built from top to bottom, I really like how Pastor Prime look. They're a very, very strong team. I think that they're not meriting of a number 4 spot.
OTF.
We're going to talk about them a little bit more later on, but they're a good team. I mentioned last week that Daniel White is a good QB. He's a good up-and-coming QB. I'd like to see him have fewer incompletions, though, and have their offense really click.
And that was my point of why they're at whether or not higher is just because what happens when they can't make the stops? What happens in the game where they're going to get no stops or a stop? Can they keep up with a high-scoring offense?
Can they play ball control offense?
Exactly.
That nature.
VPC.
I think on paper, VPC are not their strongest compared to they have been in seasons past. They've had Louis Richard, they've had Jason Prince, Andrew Carruthers. John Laristis seems to be flourishing on this team, really. He seems to have that clicking with Robbie Robinson, who is very much a chemistry-based quarterback. He's the king of the no-look pass. He's very good at what he does, and I think that addition to this team has been a breath of fresh air while not compromising the overall dynamic of the team and their friendship. I'm impressed with them so far.
Fair. Buddies.
We touched on them earlier. I think they're a great defense, a great offense as well. I think that there's certainly nowhere for them to go but up, especially considering they're playing so late this week.
And I ranked them at 7. They lost to Bearskins, who I think were the better teams, and I think the only reason the Buddies fell so far down are because there's so many undefeated teams.
Yes, great.
A team that's technically undefeated but not playing all that well, and with an injured quarterback, is Predators at 8.
I think that that's exactly the best place you can put them because they are meriting this top 10, but not barely, by much. Yeah. Barely. They're a very, very good team, both on paper and on execution. I think they need to manage the time clock better. I think they need to manage the ball better because they certainly have the athletes. They certainly have the experience. And coming off of a championship in Div 4, moving up to D3, they've been playing swimmingly so far.
For sure. BD Bandits.
We've mentioned earlier, I've also mentioned that I'm going to stop saying so I need to think before I start speaking.
Never.
However, BD Bandits, different team dynamic than years past. They used to be a team that were all about the deep ball and then shutting people down on defense. It's a bit of a team dynamic shift. That being said, I do agree with you that they need to develop a more quick strike approach to offense. But they are a good team at the end of the day, and I think that well-built defenses do well in this division.
Fair. Monsters.
I don't know if they're meriting that top 10 right now. Okay. I think they're a little bit of the product of their schedule.
That being said, look who I left off, basically. Mm-hmm. And I didn't update the records. I gotta start editing my articles. Sea Assassins.
Mm-hmm. Snatchers and Brocasian.
And Snatchers, I've been unconvinced because, again, it's a team not playing up to its potential. Despite looking better in week 3, week 1 and 2 left a lot to be desired. Sea Assassins, I'm not convinced that they lost. Their loss comes to a 1 and 2 team. And Brocasian, who since adding Derek Daou they look a lot better.
Okay.
But my question there is there too many Daous in the Battle of Monkeys?
No, I don't think
and how awesome is Battle of Monkeys?
I think that's very awesome. Firstly, I don't think that's your question at all. I think your question is, are Monstars not better than those 3 other teams? I think absolutely
Playing better.
Playing better, yes.
Okay.
I think absolutely yes they are. But I think necessarily there's other teams in Division 3 that maybe haven't been included in this list that are definitely either not playing to their potential or have just been
they're not playing to their
oversight.
potential, that's why they're not there. That's not why they don't make my top 10. Like, Solid is an example of that.
Still, it is a giant example of,
Exactly.
of a team playing way under their potential.
Same as Moose, don't worry about it. So then we are left with one last question on Facebook, and then we'll turn to Twitter. Joko.
I think that would be Cornelius for like, because there's only one person with that last name of Meta Mayhem. Please talk about the running the football inside of 5 yards.
In general, or
in general, or
Pro
in
or
this.
con?
I would assume it would be in this league, unless he's making a Super Bowl comment. I'm gonna go with in this league because that seems to be my expertise and not other leagues. I think it's a matter of safety. I think it's a matter, obviously, under 5 yards, it just becomes way too easy for the QB as well, especially if you have someone very mobile who just needs to run opposite the rusher. You send the center on a slant covering the side where the rusher is and running on the opposite. I think it's almost a guaranteed touchdown most times. There's a lot of QBs who could really exploit this to their advantage. Also, as a matter of safety, like having someone coming in full blast just to get that touchdown, people are going to get hurt. I don't think it's a good idea from any aspect, whether it be from a rules aspect, from a scoring aspect, or from a safety aspect.
Besides, QBs like throwing the ball anyway, so let them throw. Overall, completely agree, GM. I'm just going to turn on our Twitter feed as well to see what we got. I know that we did get one from Kendall Myers. Sorry, my Twitter feed did not update. We'll run through this quickly. He says on the fence. So we didn't touch on them when we did the list, but go ahead.
Okay, we did touch on them. I think that this is a very, very well-built team. They're a team that are going to take guys by surprise. They've made key additions where it's necessary. They have a quarterback who, like I said, just a little bit too many incompletions right now, but I think that'll come with time, especially since he's a quarterback that is newer to FPF. He's doing well in Division 3 with the talent around him. I think that given the team's depth and experience, I would like, funny enough that it's the tweet in from him, I would like to see more of a contribution from Kendall Myers, someone who's done so well in seasons past, both on No Regard, played for Brocasian in seasons past, someone who's not new to the league and should really take a commanding grip of this team.
Our buddy Yoko Fuerte was he made it. He said it was in fact a Super Bowl comment. I'll just say that the Seattle Seahawks thought they were playing an FPF for a moment. That's why they threw the ball in that play.
I don't think so. You know what? I think that incompletion, first of all, you're having a free agent who's done nothing in his career up to that point, who admittedly was well prepared for the pick play, who just made the play of his life. But 9 times out of 10, that's going to result in an incompletion or a touchdown. If it's an incompletion, the clock stops.
You know what results in a touchdown 9 times out of 10? Running Marshawn Lynch from the 1 yard line.
Yes, but there is that 1 time out of 10
and
where
you
it
still
doesn't
have a
work,
timeout.
and you have to burn out that last timeout
and
with,
throw twice.
3 plays. Okay.
Anyway, whatever. We're not going to agree on this. Peter Maniaca tweets in, what time is the Div 6 show? It is past. Peter Maniaca, tune in next week at 6:45 for Super Flag Bros. We're going to go to break real quick. When we come back, we'll talk about the upcoming games and why we hate Simone Dagenet.
Calling the Audible has been brought to you by the English Montreal School Board's DEAL program. Distance education for all learners will allow you to obtain your high school diploma or prerequisites for SageUp or vocational studies from the comfort of your own home. It's never too late to go back to school. Learn anywhere at your own pace and get your diploma. Call 514-788-5937 for information or visit www.distanted.ca for more details. Calling the Audible has been brought
welcome back to Calling the Audible, the flagship show of the Flag Plus Radio Network, the highest rated Flag Plus podcast, of course. And one would say...
known to cause throat infections and colds and things of that nature.
I am Pease, your GM. This show is 100% con-free, but... We decided to ask Mokan to come along anyway.
We have a new segment called The Pros and Cons.
The pros and cons. I think Mokan is the con.
Pro, no Mokan.
You can follow GM at GMCole44. You can follow me at PeaseFPF. If you want to tweet the show live, like many have done tonight. Surprisingly, none from Ryan Aridi, which is a first ever in Calling the Audible history.
I'm a little hurt.
I know. Ryan, what are you doing? What you do? Put your lady down. Just come join the show. You can tweet the show live at EagleFPF. We are in www.theunclemikeshow.com at the Coast to Coast Studios. There's a better way to word that, I'm sure. Mo, what's your Twitter handle? I don't remember it.
At MoCon19.
Awesome. Mo's not a company man, which is why it's not an FPF. Not an FPF Twitter handle. But anyway, we still kind of love him anyway.
Mo and I represent ourselves.
Yes.
Awesome. I'll just
Like
make sure you're
Monaco.
fired for next season. We're going to go ahead and pick some games, talk about some storylines while we do it. Brocasian versus Still Cray.
Still CRA?
Absolutely. I'll stay wrong every week, I promise.
I think that right now, still CRA, Guillaume De Palma facing off against his former team, firstly, is the main storyline here. Knowing the ins and outs of the Charentola's tendencies. However, with the depth of Brocasian and the role that they're on right now, I don't think that having that insider knowledge is going to be enough. I think that still CRA still have a lot of fine-tuning to do, and Brocasian has a lot of that ironed out and have had a great stellar start to the beginning of the season, so I'm tempted to side with them. Mo seems to be nodding. Do you want to add a little
I
bit to
absolutely
this?
agree. Seeing Brocasian play already this year, and they look good. They look a lot more relaxed now than they did last year. And I think we're still CRA or Cray, as you would think to say. As Jim alluded to, probably a year away from being actually competitive in the FPF world.
Fair. For my pick, read my article. Texas Bearmans versus Past Our Prime. GM.
We mentioned earlier the last week, actually.
Yeah, I made my pick already.
I made my pick already, too. My advice for Texas Bearmans is don't take Past Our Prime lightly at all. You're going to look at them and see their age. They're bigger guys. They might seem a little bit more out of shape. They will run you into the ground if you don't take them seriously. I think you need to you play ball control offense because you guys have the players to do so. There's the athletes who can score at any given, or score right away and make them play catch up. Take the ball in the first half, score, and hope you come up with that interception.
Yeah, I mean, they had difficulty playing Peasy's team back, week 1, week 2, was it?
Sorry?
They had difficulty playing your
Texas Bearmans or
No,
Past Our Prime?
Texas Bearmans.
Past your prime.
Past Our Prime won by 30.
Yeah.
I know, I'm saying.
Oh,
You know.
thank you.
Past our prime, I think, look, the experience, and I know you've had this argument on the sidelines numerous times about them, but I think...
Again, just to say, I don't think that they're a bad team.
I know, but you're like, the young generation...
That's what I'm saying.
If you bring up their roster at the same time for Past Our Prime, you have numerous players who have played in Division 1. You have a Division 2 quarterback. You have guys who are incredible outside the league
Smart
who
players.
haven't done as much here, but are very, very smart
But
players.
again, my point is that a guy coming from wherever, just because you've never heard of him, doesn't mean he's not as good.
Correct.
Or better, is my point. So because one team is heralded and another team isn't, it doesn't mean that the heralded team is automatically better in a league where teams and players come out of nowhere. Is my point.
I have passed our primes. Again, their experience will factor in. And I think as we progress along in the season, as we reach the halfway point, come Saturday, week 5, they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
Fair. Buddies versus Solid. You can't pick it. Go ahead.
Buddies. I think Fred Dupree's really elevated that team's confidence. You can see it on the football field, how their offense is a lot more dynamic than where it was last year or even 2 years ago. Their defense has been opportunistic in how they've been able to create plays. I think this team will definitely win this going away. Sorry, Gio.
That's fine. You know what? And at the same time, I'm normally the first one to crap on any of my teams, whether they're meriting it or not. A little bit of praise for Benny Goodfriend after having played very mediocre up until this point. I think that Benny Goodfriend had a really good game where he bounced back, had a shutout win against BCLA McGonagals where he really, I'll mention it more in the Div 1, Div 2 podcast, but I think this might be the confidence booster to get Benny more competitive in this division.
However, he's playing with excellent talent.
Fair.
Without a doubt.
So, Sea Assassins versus the Virtual Pogo Club, which is what I assume VPC stands.
Oh my god. Sorry, I'm just gonna let that resonate with everyone else here for a little
Virtual
while.
Pogo Club.
Yeah, I do know what VPC stands for, and it's not that, so that makes it even better.
Awesome.
But I think that right now, Sea Assassins have that offense to really be able to run up the score on VPC. I think a lot of it will come down to the VPC defense and Robbie Robinson individually. He needs to know whether he's going to manage the time clock, manage the ball, or really come up with a defense that's going to shut down a quarterback who's very pass-minded, loves the deep ball, and really needs to make it work.
Manage the time clock as opposed to any other clock. Mokan.
I think Jim's right. I think
Flava Flav necklace?
Indeed.
maybe we'll have him around the neck. I think that's legal. I think for VPC, they have to really slow this game down. They can put up points if they want to, but we've seen the CSS's office, they can drop 45 points at any given moment. But I think this is going to be one of those lower scoring games where one or two turnovers will make the difference for VPC.
So who's your pick?
VPC.
Because you always choose the established versus the...
No, I love Lazara. I love him a lot, but I think watch the CSS's play. They've been up and down for my liking for now.
Fair enough.
I honestly have no idea in this one. I think
It's a
that
tough
it
one.
can-
Honestly,
it can
if there's a game of the
definitely
week this week in Div 3, that's my...
It's a great
that would be
close game.
my
It
suggestion.
can definitely go either way, but my gut is actually telling me, as much as I love Robbie, my gut is telling me Lazara on this one.
We have Mongoose versus Genie 3D. First of all, your picks, and then we'll get to a comment from Dajane as well.
Genie 3D.
Make it quicker, though, because we're running out of time.
Genie 3D aren't as established as Mongoose are. They had a really close game against OTF that was called at the end. My vote right now would be Mongoose on this one. I think that they're a great winter team who are in the prime position.
Second that.
I'm not sure which comment you're referring to, Eagle.
I'm guessing it would be the 0-4 one. But
Okay,
there's
we're
actually
Pick them. Do all of them.
Yeah, we can even do all
But,
of them.
I was going to do them in context with the game. Why do you even work here? Go away. Anyway, Snatches versus Monsters.
Snatchers versus Monsters on this one. I know I said that they're definitely not meriting the top 10, but Snatchers were close on their heels. I'm definitely going to go Mongoose on this one. I think that the offense and the defense is both very potent, so Monsters by a decent margin.
Monsters in a close affair. Snatchers much better now than they were 2 weeks ago.
All right, this is a question from Simon Dajane. Brotherhood, Le Bleu Blanc, pick it and tell me for whom this game is bigger.
I think it's bigger for the Brotherhood because of the fact that not to be hurtful or mean to Le Bleu Brawler, but Brotherhood has more potential to go far in this division, and as such, they would need this win.
Disagree, but I do think it's bigger for Brotherhood because of the heightened expectations coming into the season.
Overrated Brotherhood right now. They've not played well. They've been blown out in a lot of key games, especially in the first 3 weeks of the year. You wonder the health of this team. Shackfin, will he be back? His pro career now moving forward. They got to make some wins here. This is a key game for them this weekend.
Pick?
Brotherhood.
You don't like to actually make a decision, eh? No. Bearskins versus KGP Champs.
This is a very interesting one because there's been a little bit of I wouldn't say inbreeding between these two teams
because that would be weird.
That would be weird, but it's a lot of players who have played together. I'm gonna side with Bearskins on this one. I think that there's a whole know Phil Cutler's tendencies. They know what the best way to shut him down is, what kind of defense he calls, his offense. So I think that so long as Neil Ettinson really plays smart football, this game is in the bag.
Can Leo exist? Another one from Simon Dajane. Can Leo exist? Pull the upset over Prestige Worldwide.
In the same way that you predicted that Salid, even though you said they were a team that were going to struggle this year, which we are, Salid would beat Laser just based on past experiences. Prestige Worldwide do tend to struggle against Laserdisc. I think Laserdisc tend to get the better of Alex Lever, and he plays down to that competition sometimes. So I think in the upset win, I'm going to go with Laserdisc on this one.
No, I got Prestige Worldwide winning this game very easily.
All right, guys, keep it to one sentence. BD Bandits Bengals.
Oh, wow.
You hate when I do that. We're running out of time, so...
Last year was fantastic between these two teams.
And this year, what will happen?
I'm going to say Bengals.
Bengals are going to smoke them.
How come?
You asked for one sentence.
Why are they going to?
You're pulling a Mokan on Mokan.
Make a pick and then tell me why in one sentence.
From last year's debacle, which they won that game but were forfeited, they're going to win this game.
All right, that's it from GM. On the fence was the regiment. One sentence as to who will win and why?
I think these are two teams that I counted out earlier on, but right now the Regiment have done more and have a little bit of a deeper roster.
Regiment.
Wild Boys versus Los Luchadores.
I mentioned that maybe Wild Boys aren't deserving of their number one ranking, but I don't think it's going to be contested right now considering the weapons that they have.
They play with a nasty edge. I like the Wild Boys.
Lassos Meta Mayhem.
I think based on Simone's question, who can't afford the loss, Lassos or Meta Mayhem? I think it's going to be Meta Mayhem in this one because of the difficulty of their schedule going in. Lassos will get a little bit of a break. They're also a team that's a little bit newer to the division. So I think that they can escape with a loss, but Meta Mayhem are going to have a little bit more trouble.
I think of personalities as well. I think Lassos has been together long enough that they can get through the adversity.
Lassos.
All right. Moose versus Rude Boys. Depending who's quarterback.
Depending who's quarterback, indeed.
Fred Morissette played receiver for me yesterday. He'll be back in action, guaranteed.
Even with that in mind, I think that right now the chemistry of the Rude Boys, they're a team that we tend to count out early on and then they start to make their bounce back. I think this might be a springboard game with them. If they have a full roster, if they have that added pressure, I'm going to go with Rude Boys in a game that's going to finish under 4 points difference.
Playoff game for Rude Boys because they've always come up short come March into April. They need to win this game moving forward.
So, you're saying Rude Boys?
Yes, sir.
All right. Zio Frate and Predators.
I think Predators are too deep and too stacked right now. I think that Zio Frate tend to be imploding amongst themselves, and I think they definitely need to get through that before they can focus on winning games.
Zio Frate's got a great defense, but I think the Lanny situation at quarterback is quite problematic. So give me Predators.
All right. Mo takes Predators with the injured quarterback over the inexperienced quarterback at for Zio Frate. GM, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I learned that we don't need to have a script or be prepared for the show.
Apparently. Mokan, final thought?
Thanks a lot for the guest appearance, guys.
All right, cool. And my goal for one, goal for two this week, I will go for one. I'm going to just go ahead and say Hall of Fame snub. My co-host, GM Colethris, did not get nominated to the Hall of Fame. Did get nominated, did not get accepted to the Hall of Fame. Should have got voted in my opinion. Wasn't even close. Rayan Sarawar, I love you, man. I think you should have got in sometime. But if there was ever a first ballot media member or contributor, it should have been Jim Colethris. Dude, I feel bad for you. You're the Chris Carter of the media.
Thank you. I don't think this is definitely. I don't think this is necessarily the forum for it to be. I do appreciate the nomination.
Well, I recognize I'm a jerk all the time,
that
right?
Even before my presence, Rayhan had done a lot in the league.
Who?
Thank you. I'm very appreciative of my role. Honestly, between last week and this week, nothing changes. Everything is still business as usual. I still come with that same passion. So it's not something that's going to bother me at all, one way or the other.
I'm looking forward to the vote next year between GM and Eagle. And Eagle's first nomination, that'll be very interesting in my opinion.
Let's go next year.
Absolutely. I want to thank GM for your input in the show. I want to thank all those who tweeted and gave us something to work with on Twitter and Facebook. I want to thank Mo Khan for his guest segment.
It also shows that we have people who listen live.
That's pretty awesome. Unlike other shows. Thank you, Terry Tam, for coming in on time for your show that no one listens to.
And ruining GM's shot.
Absolutely. I want to thank Eagle at Master Control for helping despite the lack of preparation this week. Great show, guys. Eagle, good hustle. And most of all, I want to thank you all, of course, for letting me be myself.